Hi, and welcome to the first, what I'm calling a podcast for the course. I'll try and do one of these about each week. If I don't have much to say or there aren't a lot of questions, maybe every other week. And the TA, Laura, whom some of you may have already spoken with, could occasionally do a video podcast as well. So this week, since it's the first week of class, I'll introduce myself so you can put a face with the name, which is, I think, important, especially in an online class. And then I'll talk a little bit about the visual and discussion assignments, as well as some general things about the course and what it's all about. You can find, obviously, a lot more detail about all of these topics in the other videos and the syllabus overview. And so far, people haven't had too many questions, so hopefully you're finding what you need there. So, I'm Stephen Downing, the professor for the course. I've been at UOIT for 5 years, and I know looking at the roster for the course, I have seen, I've had a number of you in other classes. So, yeah, I've taught a theory course before. I teach courses on cybercrime, qualitative methods, a range of courses. So I'm excited to be doing this, and with that, I'll jump into kind of the content for this podcast. By the way, these will typically last at most 10 minutes, so that it should be something that you can quickly watch each week. I would imagine they'll be posted towards the end of the week, whenever they are posted. So to jump into kind of what this course is about before I talk about the assignments, you probably have a good idea of what theories of crime are. In your intro class, you probably talked about Beccaria, Bentham, the idea of rational choice. You'll notice that the title of this course is Sociological Theories of Crime. And that's, I think, an important distinction. That means we'll be looking at, we won't be paying a lot of attention to psychological and biological, but you will notice that the first couple of weeks we talk about those, and I think that's because they provide a foundation for criminology that it's important to kind of give credit to them. And it helps us contrast sociological theories, which are basically looking at social processes and the way people interact as opposed to internal factors, biological and psychological. So we'll talk more about that in the lectures and the readings later on in the semester, though. So more generally, though, this class, part of what it is supposed to teach you is obviously what the major theories of crime are, and there's a lot of them, as you'll find out. But just as important is that you should be learning how to think like a theorist. What makes a good theory? And I devote one slide to this in the initial lecture, which many of you have probably started watching. But even though there's only one slide there, it's very important that you continually come back to this slide. And I posted a document that I sent a message out about as well that kind of goes over these points in more detail. So use that as a sort of cheat sheet, and I'll come back to that. But you know, the main tenets of a good theory are that it's parsimonious, which means it's concise, it's not too wordy, it's not too confusing, there aren't so many variables that it's impossible to test or comprehend. Is it logical? So is it consistent in its logic? Does it go from A to Z in a way that makes sense, empirically, scientifically? Is it testable? Another way to put this is the theory falsifiable? And when we say that, we mean, can we examine this theory? Can we put it to the test and see if the tenets, the claims that are being made are true? Is the theory generalizable? In other words, how much crime can it actually explain? If it can only explain crime, you know, shoplifting in Oshawa by women who are over 70 years of age, it's not a really generalizable theory. It might be useful for that, but we wouldn't say it's generalizable. And does the theory avoid circular logic? If a theory has circular logic, we say it's tautological. So something like a circular logic would be that being young causes you to commit crime, and committing crime causes you to be young, right? So X equals Y and Y equals X. We know that that's not true, but that would be kind of an example of tautological reasoning. And then, does the theory yield any real policy implications? This is a critique of some theories. Marxist theory, some people suggest that it's not realistic in its policy implications. I don't necessarily agree. You can be the judge of that when you read it, but it's an important question. So another thing to think about is, using these big theories of crime is not the only way to think about crime. We refer to that using a theory and then testing that theory is what we call deductive reasoning. So you go from the big to the small. You have a theory, you have a hypothesis, you observe, and you either confirm or you fail to confirm the theoretical premise. But we can also use inductive reasoning, where you start out with observations and you make a theory from there. So you observe patterns, you come up with a tentative hypothesis, and then you build theory from there. A lot of qualitative research uses this inductive reasoning process and refers to it as grounded theory. So it's important that you realize that there are not necessarily competing, but alternative ways to theorize about crime. So I want you to continually think about that, and that leads me into the discussion postings. There's two assignments for this course. One is the visual assignment. The other is a discussion posting, obviously. The discussion posting is where you want to do two things. Show me that you've done the reading, and then apply these sort of critical questions about what makes a good theory. So you want to talk about, for example, is this theory logical? Are there clear variables that are outlined and that can be tested? Is it generalizable? What would the policy implications be? And I want you to use the readings to kind of frame questions that are built around this. So you want to be very critical. I don't want these questions just to be, what did Beccaria say on line 3 of chapter 2? So think about that as you're approaching the discussion postings. The visuals are the place where I just want you to be creative, but at the same time I want you to show me that you understand the theory we're talking about. So if we're talking about rational choice theory, when you design the visual, don't worry too much about the reading as much as you do, am I showing that I really have a grasp of this theory? So those are kind of the two components of the course. Thinking like a theorist, and then showing me that you actually understand the theories that are out there. And those two assignments are kind of geared towards. I encourage you, if you have questions about the discussion postings, Laura, the TA, is an excellent person to talk to. If you have questions about the visuals, refer those to me first. And again, I encourage you to be creative and have fun with them. There are a lot of ways you can create these visuals. You don't have to be a great artist to do it. I'm even open to you making videos. I'm making this video directly on YouTube, just recording off of my webcam. You can do the same if you want. You can, do a lot of things. If you are really talented and do animation or something, you can do that. But you don't have to spend a ton of time creating a masterpiece, but be creative and have fun and show me that you comprehend the theory and convey it in a visual way. So it's almost coming down to 10 minutes. Hopefully this helped a little bit. As I see more questions rolling in on Blackboard, I'll respond to those in future podcasts, and I look forward to a great semester. Thanks.